Guram ngaya guram nyagi ay bubala manimugum banger jarang nyon dinggal berenaya.
Mula dari yalani. Yila gumbanga da jaganda. Muurrbay ngawa girwawa. Bayi bulala belinyal bulambandi. Ngawa kunumana yari yara. We use Gumbanga language because it's our language and it's the language of the country in which we live in. And it's, you know, it wouldn't be appropriate to bring in another language unless the community wanted it. Gumbanga is the name of our language and our people. It really means people of the sea. We have quite an extensive territory. We run from the Nambucca River to the Clarence River, out west under the bottom of Glen Innes to Gyra, and straight down the coast to other side of Dorrigo and coming down Black Mountain to Yadiapini Mountain. We know our territory. The people own the language. Nobody individual owns a language. You don't own anything that belongs to everybody. Well, there was no choice really, because we had a language. It was well recorded, well documented, and we had elders who could still speak. I remember the language when I was young, growing up, so it wasn't very hard for me to relearn. And things just went on from there.
You can see that will only ever happen, Naja only ever happens when we're thinking about an object.
There's only one Gumbanga language taught and used, and that's the language that comes from Muurrbay, because they haven't got any other centres in Gumbanga country. As for dialectal differences, they are so minute that there are differences that happens in the northern Gumbanga to the southern Gumbanga, but everyone knows the difference and they know what you're talking about anyway. So there's you know, you had your Tablelands dialect, you had the Bindby, Nimboida, Gumblamum, you know, this is the Baka Baka or southern Gumbanga. So everybody knew what everyone else was saying. There is a lot of people that not from our country who come into our country, but they learn our language because it's our country, our language, and you know, if they don't want to learn it, that's their right. They could learn their own language, but it won't be taught in Muurrbay. They could teach it at home, and nothing stop them from doing that. It's free will, you know.
Chỗ đây nhìn là ngày gì?
Nói nhà Ingi
Because a lot of places have completely lost their language. There'll be times when maybe they'll start to look for a language, and it's usually a language that's next door, because a next door language is more likely to be closer to theirs than any other language. So if the next door language is up and going, with the permission of the people who own it, they could ask them to use it. You tend to think about it, but you really can't borrow another man's language unless you get his permission. So no matter how much you may miss a word and they got it and you haven't, you can't use it unless he gives you permission to use it. And that's the law. The language program was started by 5 elders that were out of country really when they started, because as you well know that there was a lot of shifting about of Aboriginal people in the early days, And these particular old people were shipped to Kempsey. And they were, I think when they started off, they were in like a little church get-together group. But they started to realise that there were not too many more elders left. You probably had a dozen or so still left in the country. And they decided to revive the language and leave it for their children and their children's children. These people started to pool their pension, or parts of their pension money to start off like they call it, the Gumbaynggirr Language Club. And through that church group meeting, they met a young Maorish brother who they taught to speak the language, who helped them get all the archival material from IATIS in Canberra. And it was a long process that started in 1985.
Mining, Yarang Ipa, Sydney go mining.
By the time I joined Muurrbay, it was in 1990. And because at that time funding was hard to come by, because you had to be a registered organisation. So in '92 we became a registered Aboriginal organisation to attract funding from the federal government. And from that period we started to develop a language program that we could teach to children in schools and community people. So it was a long process.
Marble English, marble.
Because of the lack of funding when we first started this program off, we realised that we had to become a registered organisation. So we formed a committee and became incorporated as a cooperative, so we could attract federal funding. And we just carried on from there and just kept snowballing. Most of the people that we choose to be on this committee were people who were dedicated to language, culture, and all the things that go with it. And that's why we're very selective. Even when we lose members of the board, we make sure that we have someone who fills the shoes with the same qualities. Well, the thing about Muurrbay, when we first got incorporated, it was hard to get funding, this funding you needed, but we persevered and we kept applying because we were based in Kempsey, and where we run all our programs from an old church in Kempsey. And we kept applying to ATSIC, as it was then, for funds to purchase this building we're in today. And that was successful in 95, 96. And we started teaching here at Muurrbay Language Centre in 97. And we've been here ever since. It's a huge task to go through the whole records that were written by early people who've done the things in the early 1800s and a little bit later on, because they were archived in Canberra. A lot of the old writings were so very hard to read that it took a long time to translate them. But thank God we're over that. We've translated all the archive material that we could get our hands on, and we've recorded, we've had audio tapes, and now we're going on to CDs, so everything's recorded, and Muurrbay has everything it needs to have a full revival language program that's been successful so far. When we started this revival program, it was people were starting to wake up and say, really, do we have a language that still exists? And the benefit of that now is all that process we went through, is that the benefit is shown in the children that we teach and in the adults we teach, because it gives them a self of pride and esteem in their self and their culture and their language that never existed before. The work for language is never ending. It's always going on. There's something new happening all the time, and you've got to modify and move with the times. You know, you've got to be flexible in your language and language use. So it's a continuous thing that, you know, Muurrbay or places like it will never really die out if the people don't want it to. It's a hard road to hoe, but you got to start somewhere, and don't expect miracles first up. It doesn't work. We've started, like I said, in '85, and we're still going, we're still learning. Don't give up, don't lose heart, because, you know, the rewards at the end is beneficial for you and your community. Because of this centre, it has solidified this community more. Muurrbay is like a keeping place, if you wish, because everybody has a meeting here, and everybody drops in and just have a cup of tea or a yarn, but, you know, everyone comes to Muurrbay. We don't refuse anyone, I'm afraid. From our language programs that we develop and present at the schools, we've had students who come through and done their, you know, like years 10 certificates in Gumbaynggirr language and have actually passed. We have students who've done year 12 in Gumbaynggirr language and have passed. So that's an achievement in itself, that you could get a certificate in language in your, you know, year 12 certificate in your own language and not anybody else's.
So you can see there's the girl and there's the stranger.
And another benefit too that come from it was when we teach in schools, we go to most of the schools in our area and teach language to the children, and it's been shown that children actually have better educational qualities in English after teaching them Gumbaynggirr, because Gumbaynggirr is so hard and it wasn't a language that was spoken all the time, but once they mastered it, English became quite easy. We're at this stage now where we're doing our 3rd edition of our Gumbaynggirr dictionary, because we find the new words and they have to be updated all the time, and because language is so you know, changing all the time, we wanted to have some sort of a reward for people who went through this language process. So we applied to the Vocational Education and Training Authority in Sydney to become a registered training organisation, and we were successful, and last year we reapplied again. That was in 05, so we registered now till 10 as a registered training authority. It was a couple of years ago we were approached by the or hospice program that would entail us starting up other language groups to revive their language. And languages are from the Tweed River to Gosford. There are about 7 different languages that we go and help them to start all their revival work, to get everything in together for them, and to help them find their archival materials. And we have linguists work with us now who goes out into the field and do trips and do records and all the things that goes with a reviving language. So it's a big job that Muurrbay has taken on, but and I think the benefits to other communities will be just as great to them as it was for us. Muurrbay in itself has fulfilled its role and its obligations to its people. It has brought a language. The language is spoken by people in the street, it's spoken by children at school. My dream, my personal dream, is to one day be able to walk anywhere in my country and hear my people speak my language rather than English. That's Muurrbay's aims. Bulala Daria Yalami, Yala Gumbanga de Jaganda, Muurrbay Ngawa Girwawa, Bay Bulala Belingyo, Bulumbandi, Ngawa Gunumana, Yara Yara.
Baba